Welcome, dear listener, to this warm, timeless haven where history's embers glow, inviting us to linger in the shadows of a world long gone. Find your coziest retreat, perhaps a plush armchair by a flickering fire, a window seat with rain tapping softly, or a nest of blankets under a starlit sky. Let me guide you through a tapestry of thatched roofs swaying in the wind, fields stretching under dawn's blush, and souls whose toil and dreams shape the bones of our world. Before we step into the Middle Ages, I'd love to know, where are you joining me from, dear friend? Is it the tender light of morning, the golden hum of afternoon, the twilight's gentle hush, or the deep velvet of midnight? Are you sipping tea, unwinding from the day's cares, or ready to lose yourself in a story that feels like a warm embrace? If these tales of forgotten heroes stir your heart, please subscribe so we can wander these ancient paths together. Now, take a slow, deep breath, let the modern world dissolve, and come with me to a time lit by rushlights and the sweat of honest hands. Imagine a medieval village in the 14th century England, nestled in a valley cradled by ancient oaks and rolling hills. It's dawn, and the air is crisp, heavy with dew and the faint musk of damp earth. The sky, a delicate weave of pink, gold and lavender, casts a fleeting glow over a cluster of thatched huts, their roofs glistening with mist. A rooster's clarion cry pierces the stillness, rousing the village from its dreams. Smoke curls from chimneys as families coax sparks into flames, the sharp tang of wood smoke mingling with the earthy scent of livestock. Cows lowing softly in their pens, pigs snuffling through straw, goats bleating on the hillside. From the blacksmith's forge comes the rhythmic ting-ting-ting, a pulse of industry awakening, while a milkmaid's lilting tune drifts through the morning, her pail clinking as she kneels by a cow. Children laugh, chasing a wayward goose down a muddy lane, their bare feet splashing in puddles. A cartwheel creaks under a load of kindling, and in the distance, a shepherd's whistle calls his flock to pasture. These are the sights, sounds, and scents that wove the daily tapestry of a peasant's life. A world of unyielding labour, yet threaded with moments of quiet beauty, fierce resilience, and the flicker of hope. To be a peasant in the Middle Ages was to dwell at the base of the feudal pyramid, a system as unyielding as the stone towers of a lord's castle. At its peak sat the king, granting vast estates to nobles, dukes, earls, barons, who swore fealty and furnished knights for war. Knights bound by chivalry served their lords, while at the bottom toiled the peasantry, the lifeblood of this world. Most were serfs, or villains, tethered to the lord's land by law and custom. They could not marry, move, or sell a pig without permission, their lives an endless cycle of service, ploughing the lord's fields, tending his flocks, mending his bridges, and paying rent in grain, eggs, or meagre coin. Freemen, a rarer breed, held slivers of autonomy, perhaps owning a plough or a strip of land, but even they bowed to the manor's demands. In exchange, peasants were granted plots to farm, scattered across the manor's open fields, their survival hinging on coaxing enough from the soil to feed their families and satisfy the lord's tithes. The manor court, presided over by the lord's steward, enforced these bonds, settling disputes and levying fines for infractions like shoddy work or a stray cow in the lord's meadow. Their homes were humble bulwarks against a harsh world. A typical hut was a single room, its walls of wattle and daub, woven willow plastered with clay, straw, and dung, offering frail shelter from rain or wind. Thatched roofs, thick with straw or reeds, sagged under snow and rotted every few years, demanding communal effort to repair. The floor was packed earth, often damp, strewn with rushes to soak up mud, spills, or worse. Privacy was unknown. Families of 6, 8 or more, parents, children, grandparents, cousins, crowded together, sharing straw pallets or, for the fortunate, a lumpy mattress stuffed with straw or wool. In winter, livestock like chickens or a prized pig huddled inside, their warmth a necessity despite the stench. Furnishings were sparse: a rough-hewn table, a bench, a wooden chest holding a patched cloak, a knife or a carved spoon. A smoky hearth was the home's heart, its fire a lifeline for cooking and warmth, though it filled the air with choking haze. Windows, mere slits shuttered with wood, admitted slivers of light but trapped the smoke, making the hut a dim, stifling world. In coastal villages, homes might be driftwood and clay, battered by sea winds. In fenlands, they perched on stilts above marshy ground. In highlands, stone walls braced against gales. The peasant's diet was a testament to endurance. Coarse bread, baked from barley, rye, or even ground beans, was the mainstay, so dense it required soaking in pottage. A watery stew of oats, leeks, cabbage, or foraged greens like nettle or sorrel. Herbs, parsley, wild garlic, thyme, lent flavour, but meat was a rare treasure. A scrap of salt pork, a hen past laying, or on a feast day, a rabbit snared in the woods. Fish, salted or smoked, sustained coastal folk, especially during Lent, when the church forbade meat. Ale, weak and cloudy, was drunk by all, from toddlers to the elderly, not for joy but necessity, as water from wells or streams was often fouled by waste or silt. Even ale offered little cheer, brewed for calories rather than taste. Hunger was a constant spectre, worst in late winter when granaries emptied. Malnutrition weakened bodies, inviting diseases, dysentery, typhoid, scurvy, tuberculosis, that ravaged villages. The Black Death, striking in 1348 and recurring in waves, was a merciless reaper, claiming up to half a village in weeks, leaving fields untended and families shattered. Childbirth was perilous, with mothers dying of fever or hemorrhage, infants perishing from weakness. Accidents, falls from roofs, burns from hearths, or gashes from sickles, were routine. A peasant reaching 40 was a survivor. Half of all children died before their 5th birthday, their graves marked by simple stones in churchyards. Life was labour, a relentless rhythm set by sun, seasons, and the Lord's will. Dawn broke with church bells or a rooster's crow, calling the village to work. Men trudged to the fields, clogs sinking into mud, their breath visible in the chill. The ploughman, guiding oxen with a heavy wooden plough, wrestled the earth, each furrow a battle against clay, rocks, and roots. His back ached, his hands bled, yet he pressed on, knowing a poor tillage meant starvation. Sowers followed, scattering seed with care, their eyes on flocks of crows eager to feast. Spring was for planting barley, wheat, or peas. Summer demanded weeding, hoeing, and guarding crops against deer, boars, or stray livestock. Harvest was a fevered race, entire villages wielding sickles to reap grain before autumn rains could rot it. Men cut stalks, women and children bound sheaves, and all hauled the harvest to the threshing floor, where flails beat kernels free in a thud-thud cadence. Winnowing followed, grain tossed to let breezes carry away chaff, then milling at the Lord's mill, the miller's toll a bitter cut. Straw-thatched roofs or fed cattle. Gleanings were left for widows or the poor. In coastal villages, men fished, braving storms. In fens, they cut reeds or trapped eels. In highlands, they herded sheep across rocky slopes. Women's work was a ceaseless dance. They rose before dawn, stoking fires with blackened hands, the hearth's ash their first task. They milked cows, churned butter, brewed ale, and baked bread in communal ovens, kneading dough until sweat dripped. They spun wool into thread, wove coarse cloth, and sewed tunics patched beyond recognition, their needles flashing by rushlight. Cottage gardens were their charge, yielding onions, parsnips, or herbs to stretch meals, often a matter of life or death. They hauled water from wells, a trek that bruised shoulders, and washed clothes in icy streams, hands red raw and chafed. They cared for children, the elderly and the sick, brewing teas of chamomile or comfrey for fevers, binding wounds with linen strips. Children as young as they could toddle joined the work, scaring birds from fields with shouts and clappers, gathering eggs, or herding geese with switches. A boy named Pip, just 6, took pride in his flock of crows, though a hawk once stole his cap, a tale he told with wide-eyed wonder. The elderly, like Granny Wren, mended nets or minded babes, their wisdom a quiet pillar. There was no rest, no retirement, only work until the body broke, the village's survival a shared burden. Children's lives were brief but vivid, their world a blend of play and duty. By 5 they were fetching kindling, feeding hens, or carrying water in tiny pails. Girls learned to spin, boys to whittle sticks for traps. Play was rare, chasing hoops, tossing stones, or singing rhymes like London Bridge, but cherished, a spark of joy amid toil. Yet danger loomed, a fall into a mill pond, a kick from a cow, or a fever from a cut. A girl, little Alice, once saved her brother from a runaway cart, her quick hands a village pride, though she later succumbed to the plague. Their dreams, of knighthood or a peddler's pack, were often snuffed out, yet their small acts wove into the community's strength. From law and labour, legends were born. William Langland, born around 1330 in the West Midlands, was a ploughman's son, his hands rough from the fields. A priest's kindness taught him to read, a rare gift. As a minor cleric he chanted for souls in London, but his heart stayed with the poor. His masterpiece, Piers Plowman, a vivid allegorical poem, gave voice to peasant woes. Through Piers, a humble ploughman, Langland flayed the feudal order, nobles' greed, clergy's corruption, the crushing weight of poverty. I have no penny, nor geese nor pigs, but 2 green cheeses, Piers mourns, his words echoing Langland's youth. Written in Middle English, the poem spread through manuscripts, a cry for justice that stirred hearts. Langland died obscure, perhaps in a London slum, but his verses endure, a peasant's quill-piercing time. Shepherds lived apart, their lives a quiet symphony of solitude and skill. On windswept hills they guarded flocks with staff and sling, fending off wolves or thieves. Each sheep had a name: Old Bess, the wise ewe; Sprig, the skittish lamb; and a shepherd like Peter of Yorkshire carved intricate staffs, his knife tracing vines by starlight. Peter dreamed of York's minster, but the hills held him, their silence a balm. A carol, the shepherd's song, paints them at Christ's birth, awed by angels, their vigil a humble grace. In highlands, shepherds braved snow. In fens, they waded marshes, their lives a testament to endurance. Women's stories shine through history's gaps. Agnes, a Sussex midwife, was a village cornerstone. Her hands, chapped from scrubbing, delivered babes in smoky huts. Her herbs, yarrow, feverfew, easing pain. A stillbirth could spark whispers of witchcraft, yet Agnes pressed on, her courage a quiet fire. Meg the peatwife in Scotland's bogs cut peat with a heavy spade, her lone figure dwarfed by moorland mists. She found poetry in heather's bloom, scratching verses on birch bark that survive as fragments, a peasant's ode to the wild. Johanna the goose girl, from Norfolk, tended her flock with soft calls, her herbs healing the sick. Accused of witchcraft, she faced the stake, her geese circling in mournful tribute, their honks a final defiance. In coastal villages, women like Ellen the net mender wove fishing nets, their fingers deft despite salt's sting, their work vital to the catch. Grim tasks fell to the shunned. Gong farmers like John of Kent waded through cesspits by night, hauling waste in buckets, the stench a choking fog. John's wife Marjorie scrubbed his clothes, the odour lingering like a curse, yet his work staved off cholera. Ditch diggers like Thomas battled mud and flies, their trenches draining fields or shielding manors. A cave-in killed Thomas's brother, a grief he carried silently. Woodcutters like Ralph felled oaks, axes flashing, a misjudged cut costing Ralph a finger. Swineherds like Johanna the pigwife drove pigs through woods, scorned as unclean. Her songs calmed her herd, but whispers of hexed crops led to her trial. Her pigs rallied around her, a loyal guard. In fens, eel catchers like Watkin waded icy waters, their traps yielding slippery bounty, their trade both vital and reviled. Urban peasants in towns like York or Bristol faced different trials. Alice, a fuller's assistant, trod cloth in urine vats, her hands raw, her wages buying bread for her children. Markets were their pulse, where peasants bartered eggs, cheese, or wool for salt, iron, or a comb. Fairs with jugglers and spice stalls were rare joys, though cut-purses prowled. Urban life promised freedom, but delivered filth, fire, and the crush of crowds. A boy, Ned, hawked apples in Norwich, his quick wit earning pennies, his dream of apprenticeship cut short by fever. Seasons ruled all. Spring was hope, planting, lambing, blossoms, but a late frost could kill crops. Summer demanded weeding under a merciless sun, sweat mingling with dust. Autumn's harvest was a frenzy, villages reaping and threshing, the air thick with chaff. Winter was survival, families huddling by dwindling fires, rationing grain, dreading famine. Weather was fate. A wet summer rotted crops, a dry one withered them. The Little Ice Age's chill, creeping into the 14th century, shortened growing seasons, tightening hunger's grip. Coastal storms sank fishing boats, fenland floods drowned fields, highland snows trapped shepherds. Folklore was a refuge, tales spun by hearths. Robin Hood, outwitting sheriffs, fueled dreams of justice. Sprites haunted woods, blamed for lost cows or sour milk. Old Nan, a village storyteller, wove tales of giants and fairies, her voice enchanting children. Charms, rowan twigs, salt circles, warded off evil, a comfort in a world of peril. A charm seller, blind Moll, roamed markets, her chance promising luck, her blindness no barrier to her trade. Artisans, though rare, added beauty. John the Potter in Devon shaped jugs, his wheel humming late. His daughter, Ellen, painted delicate swirls, her work prized at fairs. In towns, weavers like Cecily wove wool, their looms clacking, their cloth warming lords and labourers. Their craft, a step above field toil, brought pride but scant wealth, their hands as calloused as any ploughman's. Superstition clashed with nascent science. Herbalists like Agnes blended law and learning, their remedies, willow for pain, garlic for infection, rooted in trial and error. Yet a failed cure could mean accusations of witchcraft. A fenland healer, Maud, mixed potions, her hut a trove of dried herbs, but a rival's slander led to her exile. Alchemists, though rare, fascinated. A peddler once claimed to turn lead to gold, fleecing a village before vanishing. Communal bonds were the village's heart. Neighbours shared tools, helped raise barns, or nursed the sick. A widow, Joan, was fed by her village after her husband's death, her spinning repaying their kindness. Disputes over stray pigs or stolen firewood were settled in manor courts, though justice favoured the lord. A poacher, Dickon, caught snaring deer, lost a hand but gained village respect for his defiance. Outcasts lived on the fringes. Lepers like Simon dwelt in hovels outside villages, their bells warning others away. yet some left arms at their gates. Beggars like Mad Tom wandered, their tales earning crusts. A hermit, Brother Anselm, lived in a cave, his prayers sought by the desperate, his solitude a mystery. Joy pierced the grind. Church feast days were revels, bells ringing as tables groaned with roast goose, pies and ale. Dances swirled, pipes and drums pulsing, children chasing ribbons. Harvest festivals united all, songs rising as sheaves stacked, the Lord sometimes sharing his bounty. Minstrels like Tom of Bristol spun tales of Jerusalem, igniting young Will's wanderlust, though he stayed a ploughman. In coastal villages, boat races marked summer. In fens, eel festivals drew crowds. In highlands, bonfires lit solstices. Rebellion flared when oppression grew unbearable. Wat Tyler, a Kentish tiler, led the 1381 Peasants' Revolt, his hands calloused from clay tiles, his heart ablaze against taxes and serfdom. Marching on London, his thousands burned records and beheaded nobles. Betrayed at a parley, Tyler was slain, his revolt crushed, but its echo stirred future dreams. In 1350, a smaller uprising in Devon, led by a shepherd Jack, protested enclosure of common land. Though quashed, Jack's songs lived on. Religion was both solace and chain. Church bells marked time, matins, vespers, its priests preaching salvation through toil. Pilgrimages to Canterbury or Walsingham were rare joys, relics promising grace. A pilgrim, Emma, walked to St. Thomas's shrine, her blistered feet a sacrifice for her son's health. Tithes, a tenth of crops, and indulgences bred resentment, Langland's pen railing against such greed. A monk, Brother Edmund, preached equality, his words, peasants alike. Their craft, a step above field labour, brought pride but little wealth, their hands as calloused as any reapers. In coastal towns, shipwrights like Howe carved hulls from oak, their work binding villages to distant markets, though storms often claimed their creations. Law and justice were a double-edged sword. The manor court, held in the Lord's Hall, settled disputes over straying livestock, unpaid rents, or stolen grain, but favoured the powerful. Fines, paid in coin or labour, stung the poor hardest. A villager, Dickon, once faced a fine for poaching a deer, his family going hungry to pay it. The hue and cry, a communal chase for thieves, bound neighbours, but could spiral into mob vengeance. Outlaws like Will the Fugitive fled to forests, living off berries and snares, their tales romanticised but their lives brutal. Royal assizes, travelling judges, brought harsher justice, hangings or brandings for theft or murder, yet peasants like Maud, a baker, used courts to reclaim debts, her courage defying her low station. Communal bonds were the village's heartbeat. Neighbours shared ploughs, hauled water, or rebuilt a burned hut, their survival intertwined. The alehouse, a smoky den, was a rare escape, where men swapped tales over mugs, women sometimes joining despite frowns. A brewer, Widow Joan, was famed for her stout, her laughter lifting spirits, though her trade drew the church's ire. Barn raisings or harvest feasts forged unity, voices rising in song, ballads like the Cutty Wren, a veiled jab at lords. Yet feuds simmered. A stolen hen or a trampled crop could spark years of grudges, only eased by a priest's mediation or a shared crisis. Outcasts lived on the fringes. Lepers, like Simon, were banished to colonies, their bells warning others away. Yet some villagers left bread at their gates, a quiet mercy. Beggars, like crippled Kate, roamed lanes, their tales of pilgrimage earning alms or scorn. Hermits, like Brother Anselm, dwelt in caves, their prayers sought for blessings, though some whispered they were mad. These souls, though shunned, wove into the village's moral fabric, their suffering a mirror to its compassion. superstition and science clashed in daily life. A healer, Mother Cicely, blended herbal lore, willow for pain, mint for nausea, with charms, her poultices saving lives but risking witchcraft charges. Stars guided planting, the church's calendar set tasks, yet a comet or eclipse sparked dread of doom. Alchemists' tales filtering from towns stirred curiosity, but peasants like Tom the Curious, who boiled herbs for gold, faced ridicule. The church preached against pagan rites, yet May Day dances, with flower crowns and bonfires, persisted, a nod to older gods. Markets and trade were lifelines. Villages sent surplus, wool, eggs, honey, to market towns, bartering for necessities, salt, iron, needles. A peddler, Jack of the Roads, brought ribbons and news, his pack a treasure trove, though his sly prices irked buyers. Coastal ports traded fish for wine. Fenlanders sold reeds for thatch. Highlanders offered wool for tools. Fairs with acrobats and spice stalls were festivals, though cheats and brawls marred the joy. A girl, Bess, once swapped her hen for a mirror, her reflection a rare marvel, though her father scolded the trade. Joy pierced the grind. Church feast days, Christmas, Easter, Saints' days, were oases, bells ringing as tables groaned with roast goose, pies and ale. Dances swirled to lutes and pipes, children chasing ribbons, old grudges forgotten. Harvest festivals were triumphs, songs like John Barleycorn rising as sheaves were stacked, the Lord sometimes tossing coins. Minstrels like Tom of Bristol spun tales of crusades, igniting dreams in young Will, who carved a wooden sword but never left his plough. Mummers' plays, with masks and mock battles, brought laughter, their antics a mirror to life's absurdity. Rebellion flared when burdens grew unbearable. In 1381, Wat Tyler, a Kentish tiler, led the peasants' revolt, his hands calloused from clay tiles now gripping a sword. Taxes and serfdom's chains fueled his rage. Thousands followed, burning records and beheading tacksmen. Storming London, they shook the crown, but Tyler's parley with Richard II ended in betrayal. Stabbed by the mayor, he fell, his revolt crushed, yet his cry echoed, inspiring later uprisings. In Norfolk, a weaver, Alice the Bold, rallied women to burn a tax roll, her defiance whispered in alehouses, though she vanished, perhaps to a dungeon. Religion was both solace and shackle. Church bells marked time, matins, vespers, its priests preaching salvation through toil. Pilgrimages to Canterbury or Walsingham were rare quests, relics promising grace, though the journey cost dear. Tithes, a tenth of crops, and indulgences soured faith. Langland's pen railed against such greed. A monk, Brother Edmund, preached equality in a village square, his words radical yet fleeting, silenced by his abbot. Yet faith sustained. A carver, Hob, shaped a wooden Mary, his prayers easing his wife's fever, her recovery a village miracle. Weather and climate were relentless masters. The Little Ice Age's chill shortened harvests, frost-nipping buds, rains rotting grain. Coastal storms sank boats. Fenland floods drowned crops. Highland blizzards buried flocks. A drought in 1370 left wells dry, villagers trekking miles for water, their prayers for rain unanswered. Yet ingenuity shone. Ditches drained marshes, windmills ground grain, each a peasant's defiance of nature's whims. As twilight cloaks the village, hearths glow, voices weaving tales. A mother sings of Johanna's geese, a boy recounts Tyler's march, a girl whispers Meg's peat bog verse. Old Nan spins of fairies, Pip boasts of his crows, Maud tells of her court victory. These stories, their immortality, bind the community across generations. Their lives, ploughmen, midwives, shepherds, gong farmers, weavers, outcasts, built our world, their sweat in every stone, their dreams in every freedom. So, dear listener, as sleep calls, let the village linger. See moonlight's silver thatch, hear cattle's low, feel hearth's embers. Honour these heroes, their resilience a light in our trials. Dream of their fields, songs and hearts, their story ours, a saga of hope, courage, and the soul's unyielding fire. Rest well until we meet again. Good night.